friends, and welcome to episode number 63 of a Disney Life podcast. Today's episode is a special episode where we will be talking through all of the new things we learned at the D23 event this week. So we'll get into that. My name is Missy, and I am joined by my co-host, Rachel. It's great to chat with you today, Rachel. Exciting times we have here.
Good morning. It definitely is. It's an early morning for us too. So we wanted to get this out and to our listeners as soon as possible.
Yes, absolutely. So we usually have a couple days in between when we record, unless there's something special going on. And this is one of those circumstances. We are recording this on Sunday morning, August 16th, and the expo just wrapped up a little after midnight Eastern time for us. So we're up bright and early to chat through it, which also means we haven't had time to talk through it separately off the air, which, that's our thing here. We like it to be authentic, and we love that you have joined us for this conversation. So I figure we'll get started with some of the things that Disney announced or displayed for guests at D23 prior to last night's big reveal. If you are not familiar, D23 is a fan club of the Disney company, and this is what they have called their ultimate fan event, okay? And it ended last night with what they called the Disney Experiences Showcase, Horizons, a Carousel of Progress. So that name of that event left a little bit of question in the air ahead of time, but we understand now why it was called that. So I think if you are not a Disney fan, or if you haven't been to the parks and you don't understand the Disney culture, this first thing, when you hear about it, you'd be thinking, what is the matter with these people? Because one of the exciting things that was announced earlier in the week is that there's a new plush line coming out, and it includes trash cans, a popcorn stand, normal things. There is a train.
Totally
There's a castle. I saw a Mickey head balloon. So these are soft, plush, fuzzy toys for adults and kids alike. And they actually will be available starting today, August 17th, the day this airs. They will be available from Disney Store, not just at the parks, from what I understand. So when I saw that, my kids got super excited about it. Of course, if you're a regular listener, my kids are really teens. Actually, Gracie turns 20 today.
Oh.
So I'm one less teen now. Now when I talk about my kids, I'm talking about a grown adult. So that'll feel a little silly for me, but it's how we are. So anyway, she was so excited about it. And I thought, people who aren't familiar with Disney will think this is the most bizarre thing. Why is somebody excited about a plush trash can? But that's the world we live in with Disney. So I thought that was interesting. Did you see those, Rachel?
I did. I thought they were very cute, and they kind of have the almost Japanese-esque kawaii look to them and everything. And so which is pretty popular. But I thought they were super cute. I thought the castle was really cute. And I am curious which one will seem to be the most popular, because, there's going to be one that the internet will latch on to once these are released too. Which one is going to be the hardest one to find and to get?
Yeah, they're typically, when there's a release of a new product like this, there's one that'll sell out immediately. Yeah. So what do you think it'll be? I feel like I'm going trash can.
Yeah, I think trash can, especially since this week it's kind of been revealed that some trash cans are being replaced throughout the park. So maybe, there's a little bit of a factor of hurry up and get the merchandise. There's been a lot of trash can merchandise over the years. One keeps popping up in my feed. I think it's a lunchbox, like a lunchbox bag. That's the trash can. And it's actually pretty cute. It looks kind of like it probably belongs from Fantasyland, but I would guess the trash can, the one that any person outside of the Disney realm would probably least expect, is probably going to be the one that would sell out, I would say.
So I apologize to our listeners for going off course immediately on our first topic here, but it's interesting that we have the trash can change right now. And I'll explain to our listeners, if you have not seen it, if you've been to Disney World, particularly in Epcot, you know that many guests end up using the lids, the tops of trash cans, as a temporary table surface to be able to eat their food when you're wandering around with festivals and you have your little small bites like that and your snacks. You need somewhere to set them down, and there often aren't enough tables. So those trash cans really have become tabletops for many guests. when we were out at Disneyland last month, I noticed they had a little compost bin that was a trash can. It's made to sit on your kitchen counter and it's for compost items. You could keep anything in it, I guess, but it's like a pretty sealed tight canister container. I saw them at Disney World recently also. The interesting thing to me is Disney has started changing out the trash cans in the parks, and they are installing new units that are pretty much the same size. But rather than a typical push in the top to drop in your trash type style, they have a large pedal on the bottom that you step down on with your foot or whatever means, and but it's intended to step down with your foot, and it flips out towards you, and you can put your trash in there. We experienced these recently on our trip to Disney World, and I had a Joffrey's cup that I needed to dispose of. And when I went to put it in, like, it was a little bit difficult to do because of the way that slot is open and the restrictions of the size that are on it. So it just took me a couple extra seconds. It wasn't a big deal. I was able to throw the items I had away, but I can imagine that this could pose a little bit of difficulty because the outside of this trash can was already getting a little bit dirty around that area. So I think it's intended for cleanliness, and it may be missing the mark a little bit there. The tops of these trash cans with the pedal opener are rounded, which would make it more difficult for guests to be able to stabilize their food and certainly their drinks on top of. So that's why I think it's interesting that we are making these trash cans. All of these, the trash can items I've seen, well, both of them, I guess there's just two. There's the compost bin and the plush. Both of them have the push words on them, like you're pushing open the top of it like the traditional one. So I don't know, maybe we'll stop seeing those new ones phased in. Maybe they'll only be in some parts of some parks. Time will tell, but the
Yeah.
the troubles of a Disney traveler right there. So.
Right. Absolutely. But
Okay,
I do wonder, just a quick side note on that. Disney has seemed to kind of embrace that there is that culture that is using the trash cans as tabletops. So I don't think this is necessarily to discourage that, because they could have done so many things in the years past to have prevented that. So I do wonder if there's something about these particular areas that they just needed a different type of trash can available, or who knows what. But yeah, and so for those of you who think, oh, that's disgusting, people are using trash cans as tabletops, look, those tabletops are out in the elements, exposed to other people's food and beverages and whatnot all day, every day. So it's really not that much different than using the outdoor tables as it is. Nobody's coming around and cleaning those.
That's true. No one's really tidying those up throughout the day, but they are regularly emptying out the trash and keeping things neat and tidy around trash cans the best they can. Our custodial cast members do a fantastic job with that.
Yes,
So, all right. Well, we will keep an eye on that and report back on it as the very important news that it is. But let's get back to D23 now. Earlier in the week, they announced a lot of movie opening dates, some future films that will be coming out. I'll just read through those quick. There's really only one I wanted to touch base on. And after I read through them, I guess, Rachel, if there are any you want to chat about, you just say the word and we will do it.
Okay.
There will be a Tangled live action coming out in 2028. Incredibles 3 will be in theaters summer of 2028, and it will star the kids of the Incredibles movie. So I don't know if they're older now or exactly what the situation is there, but we moved on to it specifically starring the kids. Coco 2 will be out in November 2029, featuring an older Miguel. And then we have a Bluey movie coming August of 2027. So that's just a year away right now. And what was the most exciting to me, if you've listened before, this is probably no surprise to you, Frozen 3 will be out in November of 2027. And they gave us a little bit of a trailer on this. We got to see a bit of a spoiler. We're going to have some kind of ice queen in this. Now, if you're familiar with the original Frozen story, Elsa was supposed to be the villain in this story. And as Imagineers worked through this and produced this movie, it quickly became obvious to them that they were taking it the wrong way, having Elsa be the villain, and they changed things around, and it became the sisterly love that we all see and love. But there will be some type of ice villain coming in this one. It will take place during Anna and Kristoff's wedding. So that is exciting that we'll finally, hopefully, get to see them, Tyler and I. But to me, the most exciting part is the fact that Olaf now will seem to have a love interest. All we know at this point is that she has silly hair made of twigs, an adorable little skirt or dress of some kind, and her name is Samantha, and Olaf loves her. She is also a snowman. Josh Gad was actually there. If you are not aware, he does the voice of Olaf. A tremendous job at that. Of course, he is amazing with his talent. And he was there and sang. There was a new song that's going along with it about Samantha. And it was great to see him be able to introduce along with Kristen Bell and Idina Menzel were both there as well for the Frozen 3 announcement. So that's something very exciting on the horizon. But I have a feeling, knowing you and your kiddos, there's another movie on this list that you're more excited about.
Yes, and that would be Bluey, which is coming out in 1 year. We can't wait. And they did really just a teaser trailer for Bluey with the Keepy Uppy game. If you are familiar with the Bluey episodes, you know what Keepy Uppy is. And so they tossing the red ball up into the air. They were outside and then it landed on the grass. And again, if you're familiar with the episode, it was you have to keep it from getting on the grass, otherwise it will pop. And what does the balloon do at the end? It pops. So we did see the animation style that will be used for Bluey and Bingo. And I saw a comment that said they minioned Bluey. And I kind of understand that with the animation style. It is not the traditional 2D art that you see on the series as it is now. It's 3D animated. And so that threw my kids, but I was really excited. I got up yesterday morning and saw the announcement, saw the teaser. I did not follow along with the movie announcements from the previous night. And so I saw the teaser trailer and then we all gathered in the living room, watched it all together, and just seeing my youngest, who's 3, she lit up and she giggled every single time they hit the ball. And it just, things like that make me excited as a parent. Like, oh, I can't wait to go and see this with you and experience this with you. So we are for sure looking forward to the Bluey movie. And I know they've done a fantastic job with every single episode. So I know that this will be a fantastic one too.
Okay, something to look forward to for sure. And goes along with our recent episode of things you can do to keep that Disney magic alive at home. Yeah. You don't have to have a big trip to count down to. You can count down to the release of a movie or something else special that you're looking forward to. In other parks news, they did show us what the ride vehicles will look like for the new carousel ride coming to Tropical Americas at Disney's Animal Kingdom. So this is the area of the park that used to be Dino Land USA. And it is now going to be Tropical Americas. They are working on it. Have you seen the ride vehicles? I thought they were adorable.
Yes. Yeah.
They're all different animals, characters that we know from other movies that are made into ride vehicles. They had a little bit of artwork for people to see ahead of time, and then they released a little bit more information last night about it. I thought they were adorable. There's an Eeyore one. I think Eeyore's somebody who doesn't get enough love these days. So I think he looked absolutely precious.
Yeah, there were so many. I saw yesterday, I think I read that there are 22 different ones that will be, or 20 unique characters. And so there's a lot of nods to a lot of different films. And I think that's going to be very exciting for kids to see and try to figure out which one. For years, so my mom, when Pandora opened, for years said, I really wish they had a carousel over here for kids where like you could be on a banshee for a carousel. And she says that, just about every trip, they really should have a carousel over here. They really should have a carousel over here. And so finally, we have known about this carousel for a while. I think they announced it last year. And I said, hey, guess what? A carousel is coming to Disney's Animal Kingdom theme park. But I think this is far better than riding on a banshee could be for a child, seeing characters that they love from films. I saw Squirt from Finding Nemo. There's Pua from Moana. Hey, I believe. There are so many different ones on there. But yeah, Eeyore, I think Eeyore is going to be the one that I would gravitate to. I've always loved Eeyore since a kid. And it's very cute.
And these are all hand carved as well. They said last night when they showed a photo of all of them. They did show all 22 of them. I'm sure the artwork is online. I haven't had a chance yet to go look at it closely, but they seem super, super cute. So let's get into last night's official event then. As I said, this was called the Disney Experiences Showcase Horizons, a Carousel of Progress. And we did know ahead of time that we'd have a very special host. Neil Patrick Harris was the host of the event last night out in Anaheim. We weren't really sure why we were calling it a Carousel of Progress because we already know Disney World's Carousel of Progress at Magic Kingdom is being completely reimagined and we have most of the details on that. We know the timeframes that we're going to be shown in this attraction. There were a few unknown things like who is voicing those parts, and we will get into that a little bit later. But this opened up with Neil Patrick Harris, basically as an animatronic himself. He was a, a human animatronic. They had an absolutely, I would say, iconic opening number of this show with a variety of actors and actresses out there portraying different human animatronics that we know and love within the park, including some that are no longer there. I'm quite certain
Yes.
I saw somebody. Was somebody up there as Ellen from?
Oh, I didn't notice that. I did notice, though, the Casablanca scene from Great Movie Ride. They were some of
Okay.
the first actors to come out. They were there, and I thought, okay, is something going to be announced with Great Movie Ride? Not that I thought they were going to be bringing it back, but I thought it was
Uh-huh.
an interesting choice. But no, I didn't notice Ellen, so I'm
I
trying
don't
to.
remember if she had an animatronic, so my kids may have been wrong about that. They thought somebody was supposed to be her. The one that caught my eye was from Spaceship Earth, the ones that you see in the futuristic scenes, I think it
Yeah,
is, where she's in bright yellow, and
yeah, the
she really
computer
stood out
scene.
to me. I mean,
Yeah.
you could pick these people out immediately if you're familiar with the rides. It was a hilarious song about animatronics.
Hmm.
Now, I had one dream. Well, I had a few. I was dreaming big for this, and there were a lot of announcements that I was hoping would happen that did not happen. But once we found out Neil Patrick Harris was going to be there, and we found out the name of the event, Horizons, a Carousel of Progress, I felt like we were working towards change, upcoming updates to parks that maybe people would love and maybe they wouldn't. And it was rumored that he may be the voice of the timekeeper in a new version of Figment. And that was what I was really hoping would come out of last night. When he was there as the father figure in the Carousel of Progress was basically his role last night. Right off the bat, I was like, darn it, it's not going to happen. But he did such a fantastic job. The crystal ball from the Haunted Mansion, like suspended over the table. That
Yeah.
was one of the ones that was out there. My daughter immediately recognized that actress. I think her name was Megan. She said, I forget her last name. She's a very popular Broadway actress. He even said, and I've noticed with Neil Patrick Harris, when he does these Disney things, you have to pay attention to all the little details. I don't know if he is writing this music, if it's given to him, if he gets a say. I feel like he absolutely has a say in it because his sense of humor seems to go along with it. He's a true Disney fan. There was a line in there when he acknowledged that the Hatbox Ghost at the Haunted Mansion should be relocated to a different spot because it doesn't make sense in the storyline where it is. And he acknowledged that in this song that he sang last night. They also had somebody come out dressed as a Yeti and made a silly joke about
Yeah.
the Yeti staying still, which then got my kids going like, are they going to fix the Yeti? Are they going to fix the Yeti? So they dropped a lot of hints in their opening number last night about what they would announce.
Yeah, they did, and I also appreciate Disney's ability to poke fun at itself.
Oh, absolutely. How
So
about Olaf? Did you
yeah,
catch what they did with Olaf?
I think I have so many things floating through my
I
head
know
at
it
the
was a lot.
moment.
So I was sitting there I felt like I was somebody in a courtroom, like typing the shorthand because I was taking notes the entire time because
Yeah.
there was so much happening. I didn't want to forget it. So as Olaf comes waddling out on stage, my Annie says, I wonder if he's going to fall over because there was an incident out in Hong Kong where the
Oh,
Olaf
yeah.
animatronic fell over. My word, Olaf just toppled over backwards and hit the ground. Like it was absolutely hilarious. So yes, they are poking fun at themselves. They know their eyes are on us as the guests.
Mhm.
They're seeing that feedback from their surveys. I know they've got people looking online to see what's going on and what us consumers as the Disney fans want. And they were recognizing that they know things haven't been perfect and that some things needed to be corrected. So I think that opening number was phenomenal. I
Yeah.
called it iconic earlier. I really think it was. And I will absolutely go back and watch it again because I'm sure that there are things I missed. This was aired live on Disney Plus, and I'm assuming it will continue to be available on Disney Plus for people to watch for quite some time. I'm hoping it's still up there because I'd love to rewatch it.
Yeah, so another thing too, it's always so funny what your kids pick up on. So my two oldest joined me in my room for the opening number, and then I made them go to bed because it was it was late. But anyways, the actor who voices Fix-It Felix in the Wreck-It Ralph series,
Mhm.
he came out on stage several times throughout the night, and he was on that opening number 2 and said something, and my oldest, who will be 10 tomorrow, so he and
Aw.
Gracie have similar birthdays, but he looked at me and he said, "Mom, that sounds like Fix-It Felix." And I said,
Aw.
"Because it is." But I was like, "That's pretty good." Like, you recognize that voice, you caught that. So, which the actor, Jack, I believe is his first name. He does have a very distinct voice, but still,
He
just the fact that
does.
my son caught that. But yeah, he had a part in the show too throughout. I also liked that the band was called the Phoenicians, and they did
Yes.
keep going back to the joke of they thanked them all the time. Thank you, Phoenicians. Thank you, Phoenicians. So, and that's another Disney thing. If you've ridden Spaceship Earth, Dame Judi Dench says that at one point in the script. So
As
Disney
your time
did.
traveling. Yeah.
Yes, they put so many just different touches and everything like that, and I appreciate that as a Disney fan. They geared this towards Disney fans, and I really like it when Disney embraces the culture of these fans who have
Mhm.
been fans for decades and not always. Disney is always trying to attract new people to come into the parks and into their environment and world, but when they throw us some bones, people who have been going for so long and have seen all these changes, I appreciate that so much.
Yes, that acknowledgement does mean the world to many Disney fans. And as you mentioned, they did have a live band there on the stage last night, which I thought was fantastic. My daughter also pointed out that they had a female conductor of that
Mhm.
band. As somebody who is studying music education and voice in college, that's something that stood out to her. So that band was on the stage the whole time and played a huge part of it. So huge thank you and shout out to all of the musicians who participated last night too, because as we know, the music is what makes a lot of it when it comes to Disney and entertainment. So they did talk a little bit about the Disney World Builders coming out on Disney Plus this week. So that's exciting. New show to check out. And they did confirm that there will be a second season of the Imagineering story, which will debut in early 2028. So that was
Yeah.
exciting. Also, some new Disney Plus shows to look forward to, specifically about the parks and how it's all created and how the magic happens. So that was exciting.
Yeah, and I did not realize the filmmaker for that series that her father and grandfather are both Disney legends. So she
Yes,
has that running in her blood. And I appreciate that so much because it's one thing to have somebody come in and tell the story. It's another thing to have somebody come in who has lived and breathed that story in more ways than one. So I did appreciate that. I did
absolutely.
think it was interesting that they're teasing it, considering it's not coming until 2028. But at the same time, probably a lot of what they will be covering are the new things that are coming, and a lot of those won't be coming out until 2028. So it makes
Mhm.
sense that they're trying to keep as much under wraps as possible while they can.
So Neil Patrick Harris took us through time on our own carousel of progress last night through some different things, but we started with a look at the new version of Carousel of Progress. As I had mentioned, we were already aware that one of the scenes was going to be taking place in the 1980s, specifically 1985 on Halloween night. So they did release some concept art for this. There were a couple things I immediately noticed. There was a cooler outside on the porch, like a Coleman or thermos cooler sitting outside on the porch, a bright red one. There was a off to the left, there was a bathroom off to the side, and you could see a large whirlpool tub with like it looked like tile enclosure on that. Very 80s look there. And then one thing that really stuck out to me was the Harvest Gold color refrigerator, because that was the refrigerator in my home growing up, those
Oh,
Harvest
wow.
Gold yellowy colored appliances. So I love seeing that. So I think home run there. I was pleased seeing that scene. But then they gave us some pretty exciting news, which I would assume, Rachel, I know you were a fan of the show Breaking Bad. I
Yes.
remember that years ago on discussion forums that we were in, and back when that show was still new on the air.
Mhm.
And our news we got last night involved that in a way. Do you want to share what we learned,
Yes.
Rachel?
So they did announce who will be voicing the mother and father role. So Jamie Lee Curtis will be voicing the mother, and that was an okay and whatever. Like
Mhm.
it's fine.
It's good.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was,
it's good.
that's
Yeah,
good.
I mean
That makes sense.
she's a
She's done a
big
lot with
name.
Disney.
She
Yeah.
she's a huge name actress. She's very talented and well deserving. But then they announced who the father will be, and that is Bryan Cranston. So he was the actor who portrayed Walter White in Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. And yes, that is my favorite TV show, hands down. I think it's brilliant, genius from start to finish. I actually have a shirt that has Walter White's character on it with mouse ears, and it says Walt on it. And I have worn that to the parks a couple of times and always get compliments on it. But I think Bryan Cranston is a fantastic choice. He has a unique and distinct voice, but he has a homey voice. Like it's very like
it's
feel
comforting, right?
Yeah, he does have a very comforting voice. But of course, I'm going to giggle my whole way through it, just thinking about lines from Breaking Bad that I could hear him say right now. So yeah, that was a big announcement, and that was a surprising announcement. And, I also love too checking socials at that point in Disney parks and D23 putting out reels as these things are being announced. And they had Jamie Lee Curtis and Bryan Cranston talking about it and just being appreciative and excited for their roles. So that to me I'm still sad that Carousel Progress is changing so much. However, I think that was a fantastic casting choice, and I am excited to hear Bryan Cranston in the new version.
I knew you would be. I immediately said, Rachel's going to be so excited. My kids were like, why? I'm like, she loved Breaking Bad. I said, when we first met, she had a dog named Heisenberg. I'm like, she just said she loves Breaking Bad. I always think of her when I think of that show. So yes, spring 2027 is when they told us to anticipate the opening of the Carousel of Progress. So that's exciting. They did give us a little bit of news for Disneyland. Also, we kind of hopped back and forth last night between different properties. There were 3 key things they announced at this point, which was the nighttime show Remember Dreams Come True will be returning to Disneyland in February of 2027. And also, they will be making a return of the original World of Color. So that's an exciting thing. I don't know if they gave us a timeline for that, but also returning next summer is the Magic Happens Parade. So it feels like the changes there are happening relatively soon. Sometimes we get announcements at these things and they tell us, in 6 or 8 years, here's our goal.
Right.
Sometimes it's just a vision. These things last night really seem to be things that are actually underway and really happening. So while I didn't get quite as many like big dream announcements that I hoped I would last night, at least the things that are happening are for real happening. This is not the first time we heard some of some of these changes, but a lot of them were put on the back burner because they were announced in 2019. And then, you get to 2020 and everything changed. So we did have some Paris and Tokyo announcements also. They'll be updating Space Mountain over there. They said they're re-energizing in Paris to be back to the original look. I have noted here From the Earth to the Moon, an original soundtrack for that Space Mountain ride there. Did you have any more info on that?
No, I don't. I think that was from the crowd's reaction, that seemed to be a big crowd-pleasing reaction. Yeah. I have not been on that version of Space Mountain. When I did visit Disneyland Paris, it was down, but I know that it's very unique from the other versions throughout the world. So that seemed to be a big crowd pleaser. They also showed a little bit about the new version coming to Tokyo Disneyland. And so they're calling it Space Mountain Earthrise. I thought it was interesting how much Tokyo news we got, because if you are not familiar, even though Tokyo Disney parks are fantastic and phenomenal, they are majority owned by the Tokyo government themselves. So they don't get a lot of attention over here in the parks. And that's the reason why, because Disney only has so much control over what actually happens there.
Right.
So I was really surprised. That was the first of many announcements. At that point, they had Mark Rober come out. Mark Rober might be a little bit after kind of your girl's interest in, I don't know, cool science stuff for kids. So I don't.
They knew who he was. I did not know. They knew who he was, and they got quite a kick out of him being there. I'm not entirely sure why. We have like a no talking policy during this. I was like, I need to hear this. There are going to be things that excite you. Please try to keep it down. There will be times it's more appropriate to talk and times that it's not. But it also led to me not being able to say, what is this? Like you get the reference more than me. What is happening? Because they just went through things so quickly. They did throw in a lot of extra musical scenes that we probably didn't really need. So we did do a little bit of talking on those while we enjoyed the music in the background. But yes, they did recognize Mark.
Okay. So yeah. And at that point, my kids were in bed, and I'm glad, because they would have just talked the whole time that Mark Rober was on screen, about Mark Rober being on screen. I don't really understand what he was doing there, other than he is very science-y. He did work for NASA for a while, so maybe that's why. But Space Mountain updates are coming. They did not announce anything for US side parks for Space Mountain, and I am okay with that. But that will be interesting. And I also, going along with this, they seem to be really embracing because they have the Disneyland announcements of returning parades with Disneyland Paris. Space Mountain is going back to how it used to be. Disney seems to be understanding that some things just don't need to change. And we went through several years of everything was changing, and it didn't seem to be for any rhyme or reason or purpose. They were just changing it. And they seem to be going back to that probably wasn't a great idea. We're going to put it back to how you actually want it to be. So appreciate that, Disney, very much so. Even this is Horizons, Carousel Progress. Sometimes progress means going back to what fans love to begin with.
Right. Yeah, that's true. 100. They did give us a little bit of space news, though, for our parks in Epcot. We didn't get Space Mountain update, but we did get a Spaceship Earth update. This is one of the things that I can remember them announcing, I think back in 2019, because I remember in 2019, we repeatedly were riding it because it was our last time. It was our last time. And funny enough, last night during all of this, my husband, who had been away on a fishing trip up in northern Canada, out very remotely, that's why the girls and I had our own trip, was because he had his own trip with some buddies of his. He was arriving home last night. He was worried we weren't going to be awake because he wouldn't be home until around 11:30. And we are watching his location as we're watching the show. So excited to see him, but also like, Daddy's going to walk in here and think we're going to talk to him, and because we haven't seen him in like 11 days, and we are not going to talk to him because we were trying to watch this or whatever. And he's like, haven't I already heard this before? They said 100 times Spaceship Earth was going to be rotated. I'm like, yeah, but now it finally really is. So
right.
They gave us a little bit of info on what it was going to be. I think the info they gave us was to keep everybody calm because, as Rachel said, we don't really love change, even when it's needing to happen. So Spaceship Earth, they're going to be bringing it to present day and beyond. It'll be based on human communication now, but it is based on obviously human communication now going through time, but they'll be broadening that to human connection and how we connect with others and why that's important. They say they'll be bringing new magic to every scene, but it will remain a journey through time. So this all sounds good to me. I think that an update is pretty needed in there. And even though I love it the way it is, you just kind of need to update things through time. And it sounds like they are on the right track with this one.
Yes, and they also mentioned too it will remain classically Epcot. So again, they seem to be embracing. They know what their true fans who are going to be returning to the parks time and time again are wanting. And Epcot is definitely a park that there is a certain demographic of people who do not want Epcot to change. And I am one of those. I love classic Epcot. So again, thank you, Disney, for just paying attention to your fans. I think for this one, they really seem to be paying attention to their fans in a lot of ways.
And then I think the next one, our next announcement, I think is the one they paid the most attention to the fans. And when I typed this in my notes last night, I typed it in all capital letters. They are bringing the Yeti at Expedition Everest back to life. So the Yeti has not moved in many, many years. And it was thought by most guests, including me, that it would never move again. We were told it was a structural issue. You know, that mountain was built basically 3 different projects in one, with the track system, the mountain system, and then the Yeti itself, who's giant and inside. This announcement got mixed reviews in my house. Annie hates Expedition Everest. She's terrified of it. And she's been afraid of that Yeti even when he hasn't moved. For her, I'm pretty sure it's her entire life. She has never, ever seen the Yeti move.
Yeah.
I remember when the Yeti moved, you could almost feel the wind of his big hand and claw like going towards you as you swoop by there, you know. But Joe Rohde, the incredible Imagineer who has done so much for Disney over time, seems to be back a bit from his retirement because he was there last night, and I'm sure he will play a critical role in this. So it is so excited that they're bringing the Yeti back to life again.
Yeah, and didn't he was in the opening number too, so they announced
he was in a couple times.
Legends, but he was in the opening number, and I think he fixed the Yeti, didn't he? He did something like they got a big crowd reaction.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
So, and I also, again, appreciate Disney was poking fun of itself, and they referred to the Yeti as Disco Yeti.
Yes.
Which is what the fans call it, because all they did to fix Yeti was put a big strobe light behind the Yeti, and so people call it Disco Yeti now. But yeah, I have seen the Yeti in what is A mode. which is working correctly, but it has been in B mode for a long time. So this was a huge this seems so simple to everybody else, but this was a big announcement for fans because you see so many animatronics working in other places. I think about Epic Universe and some of the animatronics they have going on in those attractions now, and it's like, why is this Yeti still broken? So thank you, Disney, for bringing the Yeti back into working mode.
And when he mentioned that during their opening number, we were all like, are they really going to do that? Why would they mention it if they can't do it? But then you're also sitting there thinking, well, they can't do it. They've said for years they can't do it.
Yeah.
Well, they are going to do it. And then I think what they cut to next in the show was, for me, the funniest moment of the night, because Gloria Gaynor was there to sing I Will Survive. And I think having her sing I Will Survive after we've been told that the Yeti's being resuscitated was an absolutely hilarious move. It was not needed at all. There was absolutely no reason to have Gloria Gaynor there or the song I Will Survive. But I just think that shows us that they're enjoying what they're doing, bringing this to us and making it fun for us. So that was great, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was at that point my husband actually walked in. So I was watching this in my bedroom, and my husband walked in, saw what was going on, and said, "I'm going to leave you to it," and walked back out. He had no idea why this was on, and I tried to explain it to him, and he just didn't get it. So he was like, "I'm gone." So
that's okay. Get out of the way, Jordan. Go take care of the kids.
You're fine.
So at this point of the show, we are back to Neil Patrick Harris, and he was again in the living room of his Carousel of Progress scene there on stage. And he was talking about the Avengers. And then they pan over to where we have a bathtub with Uncle Orville in it. And when Uncle Orville stands up to reveal his identity to everybody, we see it is no other than the one and only John Stamos. So we knew he'd make an appearance. We knew he just had to be there, of course. It was a pretty hilarious place for him to be. They talked a little bit about some upcoming Avengers things and a Hong Kong expansion with Avengers. Much of it was above me. There was some stuff about Shanghai. Yeah, it was the first land dedicated to Spider-Man. The concept art was showing a bit of the Spider-Bots coaster over there. They talked about how Disneyland in California, of course, we know the Avenger campus is doubling there with 2 new attractions. They said very soon they'll be opening the walkway between there and Cars Land. Do you have anything else on that?
No,
there was a lot.
We already knew about these attractions coming to Disney's California Adventure. So they just kind of, I don't really even want to say, the only thing that they really kind of did that seemed to get a reaction was kind of announced that they got, the cast to be participating in the scene that they filmed for it. So that was really kind of the only thing that seemed to be the big announcement. A lot of these announcements going along with this were things that we had known, and Disney's just revealing more things over time. But this says it'll be opening in 2028. So I'm looking forward to this expansion of the Avengers campus. I think these are going to be 2 very great and needed attractions there. And I am greatly surprised that they found land to do this. So I don't know how they did it, but they did it. So
they're making it happen. Yes, that's exciting. Yeah. I think the best part of this whole part of the show to me was the interaction between Neil Patrick Harris and John Stamos, because while they were in their characters, they were also kind of a little bit at each other. I think there is a bit of an unspoken competition between the 2 of them about, who's the bigger Disney fan, who do the crowds love more. Everybody loves both of them. They're both nice to look at and very charismatic and true Disney fans, which makes them appealing to many of us watching. So it was great to be able to see them interact and for them being supported by Disney and supporting Disney and the future of what's coming to the park. So that was a little bit of a fun part of the show for me to see.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think I probably would have preferred a John Stamos hosted show. I grew up with Uncle Jesse, so I did not grow up on Doogie Howser. I grew up on Uncle Jesse.
So here's the thing. I did not grow up on Doogie Howser either. It was on TV, but it was like a little bit above me, for the content and stuff. I just never really watched it or got into it. My love for Neil Patrick Harris started back when he hosted the Disney Parks Christmas Day parade when my kids were little. And that is something that has stuck with us. We debated it last night because one of the girls said that opening scene may have been better than the Are You Ready for Christmas opening scene from that parade. It wasn't there for me. I'm still going with the Christmas parade. He did such a fantastic job hosting that parade. That is what made us fans of him. It wasn't Doogie Howser. It wasn't How I Met Your Mother, although one of the girls is watching that show currently.
Yeah.
But, I grew up with Uncle Jesse too, but I could see it. It's like so even with me. I don't think I could choose one of them over the other. I love them both.
Right.
At that point, we hop back over to Disney's Animal Kingdom, where we know Tropical Americas is being built. That's no surprise. We know the rides that are going in there. We knew that we were getting an Indiana Jones ride. The exciting news last night was that we were told the name of the ride, which is Indiana Jones and the Myth of the Jade Serpent. And the exciting part here is that they announced that Harrison Ford himself is the actual model for the Indiana Jones animatronic that is coming to Disney World for part of that ride. So I guess when they did the Indiana Jones ride out there in California, it's the same kind of look, but the animatronics are not based off of him out there, and this one will be. So that'll be pretty cool to see too. Obviously, Harrison Ford is very legendary in the Disney community. So it was great to be able to see. He was not there, but there was a video of him that they played. So that was fun.
Yeah, that brought up a lot of questions. Well, who did they use in California?
Really just like random man.
It's like, wait, what is? I mean, yeah. So I am looking forward to this attraction too. As much as I hate to see dinosaur go, I really enjoyed the attraction out in California, and I think they're going to be probably pretty similar from everything that at least that I can tell about it so far.
We already touched base on the carousel coming to that area, and they did talk a little bit about the ride-through attraction that's coming there. It is going to be a ride going inside to the home from Encanto. This is going to be taking place on Antonio's gift day. If you're not familiar, his gift is to communicate with animals. So that kind of ties things in there. It looked to me with the concept art we saw, are these trackless ride vehicles, Rachel? Did you get a good look at those?
Well, no, so I saw prior to last night because they had models of the vehicles at D23, and I saw a couple of videos and things like that, and people talking about it. And I also saw somebody say they have the ability to pitch and roll, which kind of threw me because I thought, well, is this going to be like a thrill ride type situation?
They did say no height requirement.
Yeah, so
they did share that last night.
Height requirement. So I don't know what I was reading about it, because that doesn't seem like no height requirement, but. No, I did not notice if it was trackless from the concept art, but I was excited to see that it was a no height requirement attraction. That is one thing that I love so much about Disney. As much as I love thrill rides, as my kids are getting older, they enjoy thrill rides more and more. The fact that there are so many attractions that families can do together, no matter how old or how young, I think is very special to Disney.
Yes, that's absolutely what we are looking for here when we're dealing with Disney. It's what Walt's dream was to have somewhere that he can go and enjoy with his children. They did show the vehicles that they're kind of supposed to look like couches and chairs, furniture from the house kind of compiled together. So I'm assuming you're being swept away through the home on those in some way. We'll have to see exactly what we're dealing with there, but we do know there's no height requirement, so that's exciting. They also talked about the Coco ride coming, which is a boat ride over at Disney's California Adventure in Anaheim. It takes place approximately 1 year after the first Coco movie and also has no height requirement. So another family-friendly ride coming there. And they did the sweetest thing last night. Did you catch when they announced that anybody who was there attending the D23 event was able to write a memory of theirs on a card that they have for them over at the Expo Center, and that's going to be included as part of the ride. I think they said on a tree or something. It's going to be part of some type of family tree there that is in the ride. So I think that is a truly special thing for the guests who were there attending the D23 event to be able to have their personal story included as part of the decor in that ride.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. So that was very special. They mentioned that the ride also, you're kind of like traveling through a museum dedicated to the music of Hector, who is Miguel's grandfather, or great grandfather, I guess. And so, but then you'll go off and travel through the land of the dead. But I think one big thing, we already knew about this ride coming, but so far, Three Caballeros is still safe at Epcot, which is a big deal to many of us. We want that attraction to.
We were nervous. We were very nervous.
Yeah, there's been rumors Coco is replacing that for years now, and there's many of us who don't want to see that happen. Nothing against Coco, but we love the Three Caballeros, and they've been around for a long time. And again, when Disney brings those older things in, I think it's a great thing, and that's always just been such a quirky attraction as it is, and I would just like to see it remain a quirky attraction.
Then they hopped over to Tokyo and announced some information on the Sugar Rush Sweet Rescue attraction. At this point of the night, I was exhausted. I was like, can we please get to the stuff I'm waiting for? Because where's the DCL info? We had no DCL info at this point, and I was waiting on that. So I really didn't take any other notes about what that Sugar Rush attraction is in Tokyo.
All I know is that you're helping Ralph and Vanellope restore sugar buds to their original form. And Neil Patrick Harris did say, well, what are sugar buds? Which they had no answer for. Anyways, King Candy will be making an appearance too, which is the villain from the first one. The first movie is far superior than Ralph Wrecks the Internet. So I'm glad that they are going back towards the first movie and not the second one. But this will be opening next spring, and that's really all they had to say about that. I couldn't really get a good feel of what type of attraction this would be as it was.
And then we hop back over here to the Magic Kingdom, where we know they are currently working on Piston Peak National Park, the expansion beyond Big Thunder out there. We did hear that Miss Fritter from Cars 3 will have Miss Fritter's Daredevil spin, and that they mentioned a school bus size animatronic that was going to be there. I'm not really sure entirely what that's about, but the concept art looked pretty cool. And they're going to have an off-road race. Cars Ridge Run Rally will be the ride there, which you're supposed to find the wildest racer in the wilderness is how they put it with their jokes last night. So that it was pretty funny. You're going to be racing up to the top. There'll be a snow-covered peak at the top and then racing back down. It's going to be pretty bouncy on the way down. And then you're going to end with a run through a geyser field. It seems like a fun ride. It seems like the concept of it will blend well going out behind Big Thunder there. This is very different than Cars Land that we have out at Disney's California Adventure. So I think it'll be a good addition there, and it'll be fun to see a whole new land in the Magic Kingdom once that's open. I don't think they gave us a time frame on that opening, did they?
I don't recall seeing a time frame on that or hearing one. I could have missed it.
We're a while out.
Yeah, it was getting late, and they would throw information, and then they would take a step back for a musical break, and then they throw information. So
right.
Also brought out that there's going to be a new Disney Plus and Disney Junior show called Cars Lightning Racers to, I guess, really try to bring cars to a brand new generation. That was something that my son Lincoln really enjoyed cars when he was a kid, but I think that appeals to a lot of little boys, especially having Lightning McQueen as kind of a character to, I guess, look up to once he, humbles himself. But so Lightning Racers is coming to as a new series. And I know that the models were debuted at D23 too, and I saw a lot of positive responses to the models because this is a giant expansion. And as a parks fan, I like the expansions where they put in multiple rides and not just make an expansion with one attraction and just have a lot of retail space or something. So I really enjoy it when they utilize these very well. It's going to be great for crowd dispersal. And so I think this will be great. And I really enjoy Radiator Springs Racers out at Disney's California Adventure because it's a fun attraction. It's beautiful. It really is how great they did everything. So they kind of seem to be taking a different approach over on the East Coast, really turning into Cars 3 as opposed to the first Cars film. But Ridge Run Rally did look really fun.
They also debuted a new song. Of course, they gave us some information, and then they debuted a song, which was called Built to Last, and it was Sheryl Crow performing that. And she had part of some of the music of the first Cars movie, so it was nice for them to bring her back from that. And then we finally got into some Disney Cruise Line news, which was not what I was looking for. I wanted some new port announcements or something, but we should be getting new itineraries soon through the end of 2027 and into 2028. So hopefully we will have some new Disney Cruise Line news to share with you soon. They did say they are doubling the number of cruises from Southern California out of San Diego, which we have had the Magic and Wonder scheduled to go out there for quite some time now. So that wasn't really overly surprising. They talked a little bit about the Disney Believe, which is the
Yeah.
newest ship coming to the Disney Cruise Line fleet, which will start sailing next year. The Believe celebrates the magic of family power and nature and believing in yourself. And we have been told that the bow of the ship will feature Tinkerbell, which I think is super cute. Although, is she already on a ship with Peter Pan?
I'm trying to think because I really thought that was an interesting character choice.
Yeah,
Not
I
because
thought that was
Tinkerbell isn't a
different,
big
but
character, but I thought it
yeah.
was an interesting character
Um,
choice.
so the exterior hull, I think, is where the most excitement for this is for me.
Mhm.
This was announced to be Bud and Woody from Toy Story, and they are mimicking the lettering from the Toy Story movies rather than having the script that Disney Cruise Line usually uses for their font. It's going to mimic the Toy Story lettering, and they've got Buzz and Woody on the back of the ship with their crayons writing Disney Believe on the back. So that was super cute. And the biggest reveal, I guess, of all is what the Grand Hall is going to look like. If you're not familiar with Disney Cruise Line ships, the Grand Hall is the atrium area in the middle. That they use for character meet and greets, shows, and activities. And on each of the Wish class ships, it's a different theme. And we found out last night that it will be Moana, Pua, and Hey Hey coming as our statue and theming of the Disney Believe. So that will be exciting to see.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that kind of floored a lot of people. I think there were a lot of other directions people thought Disney was going with this ship. So that was interesting. Now, the Buzz and Woody one, I had seen a couple of rumors going around that a lot of people think that that was going to be these Stern characters. And I thought the crayon was such a cute nod to just the whimsical childhood play that the Toy Story movies brings about. So I really enjoyed that. It makes me curious what the Grand Hall is going to look like with having Moana and the colors that they're going to go for. They're going to kind of go through that.
Like a Polynesian theme, I feel like
Right.
we're going to be seeing there.
Yeah, closer
Mhm.
maybe to the treasure. So I know the treasure is more Middle Eastern, the jewel tones and everything like that. But
Right.
the Destiny is so different with going with that really modern feel for Marvel. So I wonder if it's going to be more akin to how the treasure looks.
And you know what? It's the treasure that has Peter Pan and it's Captain Hook on the back.
Okay.
I don't think there's a tink there. I was thinking there was a tiny tink, but I don't think there is now. I'm just confusing myself. I think so. There is Captain Hook and Peter Pan on the back of the treasure. This will be the Believe that Tinkerbell is on the front of. So when we're talking about the bow of the ship in the front like this is what's painted on the front. The artwork that's on the front. It is not the three-dimensional statues that are in the Grand Hall or on the stern of the ship. So they did confirm again there will be 13 ships by 2030. So that is an exciting thing. The newest class of cruise ships will be coming in 2029. They have told us that this will be a size between the classic ships and the newer ships, to which I immediately said, so it's the size of the Dream and Fantasy. And my kid said, no, Mom, they just showed the Dream. And I stopped listening to them at this point because they don't know more about Disney Cruise Line than I do. But I did look it up this morning to see specifically what wording Disney put out there for that. And they put, for those unfamiliar with the size and scale of a Disney Cruise Line ship, that translates to bigger than the Wonder, but smaller than the Disney Wish.
Okay.
And I will say again, that's the size of the Dream and Fantasy. So, of course, I'm not saying it's going to be the exact measurements, but I think we could expect something along those lines. Still a very big ship. Interesting to see that Disney is not working towards a mega ship. Even though they have the Adventure sailing from Shanghai, they opted to not go that route and keep things a little bit, I don't want to say small or intimate, because they are still giant ships, massive ships out there. But I think they'll be able to offer more personal experiences like they do now if they don't increase the size of their ship. So that is something they had told us before. They had told us that it would be smaller than the Wish class before. This wasn't really any new news other than what the theming would be for the Disney Believe. And hopefully in the coming weeks, we'll have some more information from Disney Cruise Line for you about future itineraries.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a smart move for Disney not to go the mega ship route because, as you said, it offers more personalized service and care. And you don't, as much fun as these mega ships are, and they are fun, it's just a different feeling once you're on board. So I think the Dream and the Fantasy, these are good size ships.
And then we hopped over to Disney's Hollywood Studios and learned a little bit about Monstropolis, which is coming along quite well. So well, in fact, that they said they will be opening in 2027. So that's just a year away. We could see it. I have a feeling maybe later in the year, but we'll see. They did tell us that Monstropolis will have a Welcome to Monstropolis song by Randy Newman. Of course, Randy Newman has done so many songs for Disney Pixar over the years. So that was great to hear. And then they talked a little bit about the rides that are coming to that area. So that is fun also. And they talked about Harryhausen's restaurant will be coming there too. So,
and they made it seem, and it makes sense because of the movie. They made it seem like this is going to be a little bit more of a fine dining experience, maybe not quite on the level as other signature restaurants there, but they did kind of make it seem like it was going to be, they did say it will be unique. It'll be different than other restaurants that you will find on property, but they did make sure to kind of make it seem like it was a date night restaurant. And that's what we revealed about that there. Now this can't talk. The sushi chef will have an animatronic there inside of the restaurant. There's also a show coming to Monstropolis, and I don't know if I had missed that announcement previously, but that was new to me. And where you will see Mike and Sully at the show for the Monsters Inc. coaster, which I am really looking forward to. You will rise up 40 feet in 4 seconds. So
yes, that's quite a height there for that quick. Yeah.
Yes. So 40 feet in 4 seconds before you blast off.
And then you're launched. Yeah. So
so a lot of speed with it. To which I hate to say it, my mind immediately went to, man, this ride's probably going to be down a lot for a while they get a lot of these kinks worked out. But it's true. I mean, when these ride attractions open, they've worked so hard to get them out and open at the door, but things just seem to happen and they've got to make adjustments. So, but yeah, and I think the land will be opening in 2027, but I think they did make note that the coaster will not be ready when it opens. So.
Okay. So we'll see a phase opening very similar like we have with other lands that they have done. I don't think we got word yet on the quick service there. I would anticipate maybe pizza coming back where we had Pizza Rizzo before. Maybe we'll see something rethemed there. And of course, that coaster that Rachel mentioned, we already knew was, through all the doors and everything like you see in the show. So not really new info there other than that lifted 40 feet in 4 seconds in the launch, and then that we'll have that show with the Welcome to Monstropolis song. So then we hop back over to Magic Kingdom and talked a little bit about Villains Land, which is a land we knew was coming, again, out there behind Big Thunder and the Haunted Mansion. And we did learn that there will be 2 attractions, one a thrilling coaster involving Maleficent. So that is exciting. And you're going to race through her enchanted briars around her fortress. So that sounds like quite a thrilling time.
Yes. And they also made note that there will be elements to this coaster that they haven't done before. So that's going to be very exciting too. I'm looking forward to this new coaster.
And then they've also said the second ride there, you'll be taken into the catacombs under the Evil Queen's palace, and you'll come face to face with the magic mirror and into the mirror realm. So that sounds like it'll be quite an adventure. Whatever it is, I'm not entirely sure, but
yes.
We'll see.
They also announced the name for Villains Land, which will be Villains Land.
I was going to say, wait a minute, they did? Yes, I just have Villains Land.
So they made a big deal about it, and it was kind of a weird moment of the show. I appreciate having the look of it with how the text is going to look and everything like that, but they're like, and the name will be Villains Land. And it was like, it was kind of silly, like just call it Villains Land and keep calling it Villains Land. And they kind of made it seem like, well, all the other parts are lands, Tomorrowland, Fantasyland, and it's like, okay, just keep calling it Villains Land. Like they kind of made it seem like it was a big announcement, but it was not. But again, I'm glad to see these are 2 different expansions coming to the Magic Kingdom with 2 attractions each. So this is 4 new attractions that are coming to the Magic Kingdom to be able to help with crowd dispersal. And that will make, especially with the purchase of a Lightning Lane, Magic Kingdom for me is one of those parks that it very much is worth it. And this just means there's more chances and more opportunities to be able to utilize that so well at Walt Disney World. So I'm really looking forward to Villains Land. This is something that people have wanted for a long time. In fact, they wanted what's called a 5th gate, which would be a 5th park. And they wanted a villains themed park for a really long time. But, Walt Disney World kind of said, well, let's pump the brakes on that idea, but bring you guys something that you have wanted. And they are doing massive expansion, and it will be very very exciting. I was a little nervous as they were talking about kind of the theming of the land and everything and seeing a different side of the characters. And I thought, oh, are we going back to let's make these characters likable and try to empathize with them? Because that's not my favorite approach to these villains. It's like the villain show at Hollywood Studios, like where you're, who is the most oppressed villain? And it's like Cruella DeVille wanted a coat made out of puppies. Like, this is not okay. But no,
man, she gets a lot of love. She was on Glenn
she
Close
does.
was
She
her
got some
last
love
night
last
on
night
stage,
too.
and people love her. She does a fabulous job.
Yes, yeah, she does. It's
But yeah,
fun.
she wanted to kill puppies and wear their fur.
Yes,
So
but
that's just gross. I mean, you're not
forget what
nice.
she wanted to do. So, anyways, but no, that does not seem to be what it is. In fact, it seems to be that there's something attracting the villains to this area because they want to be more villainous.
Right.
So I was glad to see that. Like, let's keep villains land. And of course, they did have a special appearance. Cruella DeVille did appear on stage, and it was revealed, and this also got a huge audience reaction. It was Glenn Close reprising her role as Cruella for everyone. So very talented actress. And I was so worried she was going to break an ankle. Did you notice her shoes?
Those shoes, I don't know who chose those shoes for her, but those were an interesting heel she had on there. Big, I don't even know what they were, platform or something. I don't know what was happening, but they were big heels.
Pleather boots, but the platform seemed to be more narrow than the actual shoe base itself. So I've got to say, good job, Glenn Close, because you've got a couple of decades on me, and I don't think I could have worn those and not broken my neck. So
she did great. She looked fabulous, and the audience loved her.
Yes.
So then we got a super brief announcement that was basically just Tomorrowland at Disneyland in California is going to be redone. Mm-hmm. And then absolutely no other information really was very.
Yeah, and people seem to like that one. I don't know how I feel about that one. I think Tomorrowland has a lot of unutilized space. And so hopefully they're going to be utilizing a lot of that space better, because I was also thinking as they were talking about more attractions coming in, where in the world are they going to put these things? But I didn't remember, like, there's quite a bit of space that's kind of empty that used to be.
So here's what I think people are thinking when they hear Tomorrowland at Disneyland. It's all about the people mover. People want something to happen with the people mover. That track system is there. It has not been used in years. It's something my kids talk about from time to time, and we're mentioning ahead of our trip. And once we got there and I started paying attention, I was like, wow, it's dirty. Like, it's covered in, like, there's just debris and stuff, like, dirt and gravel. Like, you can tell it's an unused thing. Nobody's getting up there and cleaning it. I would love to see it replaced. Like, if this, they say the track that it has now is not safe, they can't use it for whatever reason. I would love to see it replaced with a brand new one so that we can have that same ride option there, a similar option to what you have out at Walt Disney World at Magic Kingdom. So I feel like that's where people thought this was going, because it was a night that they were doing things that the fans have been asking for, and maybe it'll be part of that. So we also heard the announcements that we had already discussed about the overseas Space Mountains being redone. So maybe something will happen there with their Space Mountain. We'll see. But they have said they're doing something with Tomorrowland. They've acknowledged the fact that something's going to happen there. They haven't said what. And then they basically acted like the night was ending out. And I was like, wait a minute. What about Figment? Like, why is Neil Patrick Harris even here? What's happening? And he basically said the same thing. Hold on. You promised me if I came here then, and it was revealed that Figment and the Dreamfinder will be returning. And it seems like that ride will be getting an overhaul, which is much needed. I mean, I love Figment. He's adorable, but there are so many more things that they can do there with that space in the park. So I ended the night absolutely thrilled that we had Neil Patrick Harris there as the Dreamfinder in his costume and with Figment there. If you happen to catch any of our videos on socials, or if you happen to be watching this on YouTube, you know that I always have my Figment popcorn bucket and my Spaceship Earth cookie jar behind me here where I record. And the fact that I got updates with both of those attractions last night, while I didn't get some of the big things I dreamed of, overall, I thought it was a great night of announcements and some things that are very much needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. There wasn't anything that I was super disappointed in as far as they made any new announcements, and it was like, oh, then that means this is going away. I've said this a couple times throughout this episode. I do appreciate Disney really seems to be trying to appease those of us who are more purist in form and want Disney to stay as Disney has been. And I understand the arguments all against all of that. So while they were talking about the Carousel of Progress, they also seem to be talking about, too, why people love Disney parks to begin with and what brought them in the first place. Having the Dreamfinder come back with Figment was a massive announcement. That is something that fans have been wanting since they changed the original attraction to begin with. Imagination, Journey to Imagination, so many different names that it's had, has gone through a couple of different ride overlays, and they've never been able to create that spark of magic that it had in its initial run. So bringing back the Dreamfinder is a fantastic choice. I've got a picture of myself and my cousins when we were kids. We were like 3-4 years old, probably between 3 and 5, with Figment and the Dreamfinder at Epcot. So we loved that attraction. And I have very vivid memories of writing different things about it. So I do wonder what they're going to be doing. And even in the version as it is now, once you are in that room and the lights go out and you hear there's a burst of air and everything pops open and you see Figment in different scenes and they start singing the Imagination song. That was one of my favorite scenes of the original attraction. I would love to see it again with the Dreamfinder flying up in the sky and everything. And so, maybe Neil Patrick Harris will have a role in this. Maybe he will be the next Dreamfinder. Who knows?
It would be fun. I don't know.
Yeah,
they kind of gave that impression. They didn't say it for sure, but they gave that impression last night. And at least we know something's happening there. And maybe we'll see it soon. And maybe it'll be in 4 or 5 years. They'll finally tell us what is happening there. But just getting acknowledged is a big thing. So
yes,
we'll see something coming there. So I think all in all, it was a very exciting night. I didn't get everything that I dreamed of. I'm going to just say it again. Disney Cruise Line needs to build a resort in Fort Lauderdale. We need it there. There is a need. People will book it. It will make it a destination. I was really hoping for something more from Disney Cruise Line, but I'm hopeful in the coming weeks we'll have more information and itineraries there. And maybe eventually we'll see a resort pop up down there. That was my big thing. Everybody just wants cruising back in the Northeast with Disney Cruise Line. If it can't work out with New York City for some reason, I've heard there's been a delay on that. It was delayed the last release. It seems to be delaying things again and maybe not happening at all, likely not happening. There are other ports. There's Philadelphia. There's Baltimore. I was hoping maybe they'd bring the magic or wonder over here, sail from here a bit. Nope, that didn't happen. But happy for those out there in San Diego that they have 2 ships now. That's a great thing. But yeah. Overall, I'm happy. I'm glad they didn't take away the 3 Caballeros. That made me nervous. So
I'm glad they did not announce another resort, to be honest with you.
Really? Oh, yay, a new DVC property.
Right. So I am glad of that. So again, nothing that I wish that we had gotten a little bit maybe of new information. Because a lot of these things we did know already and they were just kind of revealing more. But at the same time, they can't have a blowout show every single year. And they do seem to have years where they have this fantastic show with all these new announcements. And then the next couple of years, it's kind of more subdued of, okay, here's what's coming. And I think something that was really exciting is that before Josh D'Amaro took over as CEO of the company, there were a lot of rumors that, some of these areas in the Magic Kingdom were getting scrapped. So that they were not going to be able to do a Cars Land, that they were not going to be able to do a Villains Land. So it was good to see that, hey, these projects are still greenlit and they are still go. And so I think that was another thing too. We can't overlook that these things are still coming and still happening.
Okay. All right. And I think that pretty much covers everything that we wanted to chat about following the D23 Ultimate Fan Event, Disney Experiences Showcase, Horizons, a Carousel of Progress. Wow, they could really name things. So that's going to do it for today's episode. Rachel, it's been great to chat through all of this with you as always. And thank you to our listeners out there. If this is your first time joining us, thanks so much. We hope you'll come back. And if you are one of our loyal fans, as always, we much appreciate you. And we hope to be able to chat with Disney again with you soon.
Talk to you soon.